Hi again, it's Travelling Jones. We're back with one of our Zoom meetings, and today is Monday, the 15th of May, 2023. And as I said, my name's Travelling Jones, and I'll just let the rest of the team introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Andrea from Vancouver, Canada.
I'm Julie from Billings, Montana.
And I am Jennifer from Plymouth in England.
And I'm in Warrington in the north of England. Today we want to talk about choosing the right foods. When people embark on, whether they want to call it a diet or when they start to decide to want to change the way that they eat the foods and their regime of eating, it could be a bit of a problem for some people, because they say, well, I've been to Slimming World, or I've been to Weight Watchers, or my uncles told me this, or my cousin said I should go on the Mediterranean diet. And there are all sorts of diets out there: carnivore diet, vegan diet, there's the Daniel diet, there's the Atkins diet. And, you know, whilst none of them are wrong, it's a case of finding out what works for you. And I discovered what worked for me, and I've shared what worked for me with other people, and it was based upon the ketogenic diet, although I'd never heard of the keto diet until I started losing weight. But the one thing that I discovered very, very quickly is that the problem are the carbohydrates that we eat. Those are the problems. Those are the problem foods which contain carbohydrates. And carbohydrates, it means they're made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And these foods turn to sugar. That's the simple term, in our blood, and our blood sugar levels increase, and our pancreas produces insulin, which is a hormone to help regulate the correct blood sugar levels, and it takes out the excess sugar, and it goes to feed the cells in our body, and if they don't want it, then it will store it on our body as fat. So what we want to talk to you today about choosing the right foods, helping you to find out what your right foods would be. So we're not going to say that anything is wrong, but what we do say is that if it works, it can be wrong. If it doesn't work, it can be right. So for me, it was carbohydrates. So I'm just going to open up the conversation to everybody who wants to share. So I'll just hand over to anybody who just wants to share about choosing the right foods.
Well, I'll start if you like, Jennifer. I found that if I keep a journal every day and write down everything that I eat, obviously do a little bit of reading and try and find out what's high in carbs and what's not, because not all vegetables are low in carbs. You've got some that are quite high. All your starches and your rice and potatoes, all that type of thing is very, very high in carbohydrates, and it raises your blood sugar and you put on weight. So I sort of do the best that I can in the low carb foods. And I think if you have a protein, which can be either eggs or your meat or your fish, anything like that, and you choose some vegetables with it, it's quite a nice diet. There's lots of ways you can eat the vegetables. You can have them roasted or steamed or whatever. It's just a question really of choosing what suits you, what you like, what you dislike, what agrees with you, don't agree with you. Some people find that vegetables is very hard to digest, so they have perhaps a bit more protein. I get on very well with vegetables, so that suits me. But you just find it out every day. I found that if you weigh yourself every day, you can see the results and write them down on a piece of paper, and you can look back. When you've lost a couple of pounds, you think, oh, how did I do that? Then you look back at your journal and you see it there all written down and you think, oh yes, that's what I did that day. And there's so many lovely recipes on our program as well, which will help you a lot about your vegetables. And you can make lovely with your cabbage. There's lots of things you can do with cabbage. You can make little quiches with them and everything. It's surprising. But it's all a little bit of investigating, I'm afraid, and following the program and doing the best that you can. I mean, obviously, there's days when you slip up, and then the next day you think, oh, I've got to get back on track again. And I'm target weight now, which is lovely. It's took me many, many years to get there. And I'm finding it quite easy to stay there. But I allow, say, a four pound window, and that is I'm allowed to put on £4. And then when I go over that £4, then I think, no, you get yourself back again, and you're to-ing and fro-ing. But I think you should look into it and before you make a decision. I found it very, very good. Weight Watchers and whatever is always at the time, which I was with them for many, many years, but it doesn't last. As soon as you come off it, the weight goes back on. This does. Treffner's been doing it now for 5 years, and he was a very, very big man. I hope you don't mind me saying that.
No, it's fine.
But he does show photographs of himself and everything. You don't always have to come on here and talk. You can just listen. But it's surprising what information you find out. So it's worth looking to it. That's my advice anyway.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah, I think you mentioned some good points there, Jennifer. Andrea's going to speak now.
Yeah, I realized when Jennifer was talking that a couple of the things that I have learned about myself on low carb that I never learned on any other diet, and I've tried them all, Weight Watchers, yeah. I don't want to even talk about it because it just didn't work. There's 3 or 4 times I tried it. Is that I'm addicted to certain carbohydrates. Anything that's made with wheat, I can't have in my house. And I never realized that before. Even on Weight Watchers or any other diet, you are eating carbohydrates that you could possibly be addicted to. So you never really are able to shed that addiction and move on from it. But with Localofa, one of the things I realized was that I can't have bread in the house. I just can't. So that has made life a lot easier for me, eating low carb, because I'm not feeding that addiction. And the other thing I learned is that you just don't need to add fat to everything you eat. As they kind of recommended the keto diet, where it's a very high fat diet in general. If you're trying to lose weight, you want to lose the fat that's on your body, not use the fat that you put on your food. I don't eat low fat at all. I eat a good amount of fat, but I don't add fat to everything, like, butter in your coffee, butter on your steak, and so on. So this has enabled me I lost 25 pounds 2 years ago, over 2 years ago now, and I have kept it off. And every day I journal, just like Jennifer says. I weigh myself. I have a way to look back and see what I did, what caused a problem, what was good. And I'm on maintenance now, and I'm actually eating a few carbs here and there. Things that I'm not addicted to. I can eat a little bit of potato. I can eat a little bit of rice now and then, and it doesn't bother me. I don't have any cravings for it. It doesn't call to me, which is what happens when I have anything with wheat in the house. It will call to me until I eat it all. So I just wanted to say that addiction is one thing, you know, you need to be aware of, that if you are eating a lot of carbs, you are probably addicted to them in some way. And you have to kind of find what are you addicted to? Is it the sugar? Is it the grains? And so on. Yeah, and just like Jennifer said, you have to find out for yourself what you can and can't eat. I don't do well on dairy. I do eat dairy, but I don't do that well on it, and I try not to eat it excessively. And yeah, I think that's about it. Just you have to find out for yourself by trial and error. It's an experiment of one, because although we're all the same in many ways, we're different as well from what happened to us in the past, our heredity, you know, the illnesses or the dietary problems that we've had in the past. I don't do well on high fiber, like Jennifer said, some people don't. I don't do well at all on high fiber. And that's been like that for years. And low carb helps that a great deal. I am very comfortable on low carb. Anyway, I think that's about it. I'll turn it over to Julie.
All right. So I guess I wanted to comment about grocery shopping. When we grocery shop, we tend to stay on the outer perimeter of the grocery store, because that's generally where you're going to find your meat and your vegetables. And we stay away from anything that is refined. That's going to generally have high carbs. If I venture away from the outside of the store, it's to perhaps buy something like vinegar, particularly apple cider vinegar, with the mother in it, is particularly good. If you do eat some kind of heavier carbs like potatoes or rice, the addition of vinegar to those things, or even, let's say, if you have a glass of water with a tablespoon of vinegar in it, at the same time you're eating maybe like a potato salad or something like that, that will help to slow down your body's processing of those carbohydrates. And I know diabetics use that to slow down some of the carbs that their body absorbs. That I tend not to add those kind of carbs to my diet. I stay away from corn and potatoes. A lot of root vegetables are very high in carbs, parsnips. But then there are other things that were not typically a part of my diet that I have added in, rutabagas and turnips and various and sundry things. I have found, I think you will find after you eat this way for a while that there are foods that you would never have thought were sweet, and you kind of come to appreciate them. Things like cabbage. I would not have ever thought that cabbage was sweet, but I have found that when you aren't eating sugar or other sweet things, then the sweetness in those vegetables comes out. I think that's about all I have to say on it.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks. I think that there's so much information out there. There's a lot of misinformation as well out there. And so, if somebody says, well, you can have what you want, just eat it in moderation. There's no such thing as moderation, really, because as Andreas said, if we're addicted to it, and I am addicted, I'm an addict, and I have to sort of watch what I'm eating. So I've got an image here which says, what do we eat instead? So I'll just share the screen with you. And these are the vegetables that I would eat, is above ground vegetables. So I buy broccoli, my celery, green beans, Sprouts are okay, but don't pile your plate with them because they can be quite carby if eaten in excess. Courgettes, avocado is great, but again, if you're trying to cut out on the fat, be careful. Don't go overboard on avocado. Lettuce and cucumbers, all these here are low carbohydrate foods. So what we're trying to do is keep away from the bread and the rice and the pasta and all the potatoes and those kind of foods. Those are the ones that cause the problem. And obviously the obvious ones like our biscuits, and I'm an addict to biscuits, you know, a self-confessed addict. Yeah, it's a real problem for me. And other foods which are worth looking at are obviously foods that are rich in protein as well. And Andrea loves the steaks, don't you, Andrea?
I do.
Steaks, yeah. So all meat is good. All meat is good. But again, eat the food that you like. And journaling is so important. And the reason that we journal is that we weigh ourselves today in the morning or at a time that suits you best. Write down what you eat and weigh yourself tomorrow, and you'll see if you've made a difference. And 9 times out of 10, if you've eaten, well, it doesn't matter how you eat. If you eat recklessly, you'll see the difference because your weight will go up. And if you've eaten wisely, then 2 things: your weight will not have increased and probably will have decreased. And that's what we're looking to do, is to see that reduction in our weight. And we learn from the food that we eat, and the frequency of our meals can have a big impact. I eat 1 meal a day, and I've been doing this now. I'm in my 5th year. So if somebody says to me, oh, that's dangerous, really? Well, I don't look too bad after 5 years on being 1 meal a day. And I've done extended fasting as well. And I'm not a spring chicken. So it's not as if somebody can say, well, it's okay for you youngsters. Yeah, like me, a youngster like me. I can get away with it. Anybody can get away with it. And so we just encourage you to keep away from processed foods. Read the labels on the tins. See how many carbohydrates per 100 grams. If it says of which sugars, ignore that. Ignore the of which sugars part. And a great book that I would recommend, which we all have, is the Carbon Calorie Counter book. Do not count calories. A total waste of time. There's no such thing as a calorie. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It's a number that came about as a result of an experiment in a laboratory where they actually set food on fire. So that's where the calorie comes from. It's the amount of heat required to raise 1 gram of water through 1 degree centigrade, and you cannot eat an amount of heat. This book is a great book. It's got pictures in it, and I love pictures, and you can see. So actually be very, very careful. Get this book. It's called the Carbon Calorie Counter book. It's available on Amazon. I paid $15.99 for it. And so choosing the right kind of foods. And what we do on Localofa is that we post our meals up so that you can see the food that we're eating. Just eating the right kind of foods. So what foods are your danger foods? You mentioned bread, Andrea. So you don't buy it, do you? You don't buy it. So if you don't take it home, you can't eat it. That's the biggest problem, is taking it home. Don't take it home.
Yes, what I tell people is, if you're going to indulge in something that's risky, do it outside at a restaurant or whatever, at the food court. Have that one thing. Don't buy any of it, and you'll probably be okay. You know, if you do that once every 6 weeks or a couple of months or whatever. I can eat wheat if I eat it away from home, and I don't bring any home, because then it can't call to me.
And it's very rare. But
and it's rare.
Yeah.
I'll just share once again, just so we can just be reminded. These are the foods that are high in carbohydrates. And again, it's carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen if you went to the science of the molecules. But you've got pasta, sugar, rice, pasta, bread, flour, potato, porridge, cereals. People say, oh, well, I have cereals for breakfast. I'm having porridge for breakfast. They are not low-carb foods. Trust me. Milk, you're putting milk on your cereals. You're putting milk, which go into your porridge. and you're baking cakes, and be very careful with low what they call these keto friendly breads as well. You've got experience of that, haven't you, Andrew? Do you want to share about
Yes.
your experience?
Yes, I have tried many low carb breads because, of course, I want to be able to eat bread, right? So I have bought them. Most of them are wheat based. And so they called to me just as loudly as regular bread. And I've had to throw away probably 5 or 6 loaves of low carb bread because I can't eat it. I can't stand listening to it scream at me. So I would have to either eat the whole loaf or just throw it away. So I've tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same. I used to make keto buns, 60-second buns with almond flour. But if you look at almond flour, it's quite carby. It's not low carb. It's like what they call diabetic jam. You were diabetic, weren't you, Julie? And Jennifer. But would you eat diabetic jam? Would you recommend it to anybody?
I've never had it, so I can't answer that.
Yeah.
But it's still high in carbs. Still high in carbs. And the chances are that low-fat products, if you're buying low-fat products, you think, well, I'm going to buy this low-fat, this low-fat, that. They tend to be higher in carbs. And it's not the fat. The fat will not hurt you. The fat will prevent you from losing weight because, as Andreas said, you're preventing your body from burning its own fat. But in the absence of carbohydrates, your body then starts using up ketones. And ketones is an alternative fuel which is manufactured by the body in the absence of carbohydrates. So the reason that we eat one meal a day is to reduce the opportunity or the number of times we can put carbohydrates into our bodies. And by reducing carbohydrates, we switch over from glycogen and using ketones instead, which means that we start then living off the fat on our bodies. And that's why it's low carbohydrate, low fat, low car, low fat. It's not because fat is bad for you, but we don't want it to store your weight loss.
I wanted to comment, you mentioned like you eat something that's off of your plan, and then when you're weighing every day, then the next day your weight might be up. But I have found that when I have gone off plan, it's not necessarily the next day when my weight would go up. It might be 2 days
after.
Yeah, I would go along. It can last 2 days, depending.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because people like to say, oh, it's and I know you don't like this, calorie in, calorie out, and I think we've all found that there is absolutely no truth in that.
No, there's not.
No. There's so many other factors that feed into it. It's not, let's say, the weight of the food that you eat. It's the carbs, it's the amount of sugar that you put into your body. And you do have to be really careful when you buy things, because not everything on a list of ingredients is going to just say sugar. There are probably a dozen or 24 different ways of saying sugar that we have to watch out for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I will say as well that you can lose weight and do very well on 2 meals a day. My experience of 3 meals, it doesn't seem to work. So I find that if I skip breakfast, but then you might prefer breakfast and perhaps skip your lunchtime and then have an evening meal, whatever suits you. But I find some days I need to have 2 meals instead of 1. But just to say, it does work.
Yeah.
It does work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you might find that easy when you first start. Perhaps just cut out your 1 meal and make it 2 meals instead of 3, because that does help. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to bring Wildine because he's recently joined us. So if you want to introduce yourself, Wildine, let everybody know where you're speaking from, please.
Hi, my name is Valdimar from Iceland. Uh, what do you mean
Well,
to say?
Well, what we're talking about today, Wild, is choosing the right kind of foods which suit you, because we know that we got to keep away from foods that are high in carbohydrate.
Mhm.
Obviously, over there in Iceland, you've probably
Mhm.
got different access to different foods than we have here, because you eat a lot of fish, don't you?
Yeah, I do that. And is sometimes is a small trick in some food which I don't know before. Maybe they put something in like a vitamin and like a B and C and everything. There's some of them who trick food that I want to eat more, like that, and I have to watch that. But the main thing is one meal a day for me, and just have it simple, but have it also like a beautiful and fantastic thing, the meal on the plate. That's the main thing.
I mean, one of the foods that you had to avoid was chocolate, wasn't it, Walden?
Yeah. Or chocolate.
Because, I mean, standard chocolate, I'm not talking about 90%, 80% chocolate.
No.
Chocolate is very, very high in carbs, isn't it?
Yeah. And the chocolate was in Iceland. They told me this more like a second class chocolate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's with milk and so on. So
Yeah.
A lot of sugar.
yeah,
Yeah, very addictive.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but if I get hungry, sometime in the evening, I just take a small piece of cheese, and there's a few moments I have to do that, but that's my yeah.
That's right. Dr. Westman says if you're going to binge or if you're going to snack, make it protein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talk about snacks. I mean, we've got the obvious ones: chicken thighs, chicken legs. Chicken's cheap. I mean, I know Andrew would love to snack on ribeye. That would be her go-to snack. But eggs are cheap, aren't they? Eggs relatively cheap. Cheese, obviously, watch the fat content on the cheese. You've got to watch salt, haven't you, Jennifer? Because that doesn't work for you.
No.
Because you've got meniere's, haven't you?
Yeah. I just said 25 grams of cheese, and I've got used to that now, and it satisfies me. Whereas in the beginning, when I cut it down, it just made a fool of my mouth. I wanted more, but now I'm quite happy if I have the odd, depending on what I've eaten in the way of salt during the day. But if I've had what I call a good day with the salt, then I allow myself to have a piece of cheese. And but it's like everything in life. Your body gets used to this, and you do get used to it. I don't take any notice now of a low salt diet. Absolutely none. But some people, they got a lot of salt for cooking, and they can add a lot of salt. Nothing wrong with that. If salt's good for you. If it agrees with you, it doesn't agree with me, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And it's always an answer. But if you've got a problem, diabetes or like me with the meniere's or something else, or you have problem with the high fiber diet or high protein, whatever your problem, there's always an answer. There's always a way around it. But you've got to sort of find it. Takes a little while, but it does work.
I just want to talk about snacking for a minute. Like, I eat one meal a day, but sometimes I will the meal that I've eaten is not high enough in protein or fat or whatever. And later in the day, I might feel hungry or whatever. So what I will try and do is have a drink, a hot drink or a cold drink, depending on what I feel like. And if that doesn't help, then I know that truly I've made a mistake and I haven't had enough to eat at my one meal. And so then I always have bacon. I always have hard-boiled eggs. I always have leftover meat, or fish or whatever around. And so then I usually will have something small to get me through, because I have to try and go 24 hours between meals. So, if I can't do that, then I'm in trouble. So that little bit of extra protein and fat in the evening, if necessary. And most of the time the meals that I eat are fine. You've seen the meals that I eat, they're huge.
Yeah.
Probably I'm eating more calories. If we want to talk about calories, I'm probably eating more than I was before. It's just that they're low carb.
Yeah, you're not eating any calories because they don't exist.
No, but I don't know how else to tell people. Yeah.
Well, the weight of the food.
The weight of the food, yes.
Yeah, don't skimp on your meals, because it's not about going hungry.
No.
It's about feeding your body, but not overfeeding it. And the reason we get fat is because we're storing food in our bodies. I mean, if you took your car to the garage, when the fuel tank's full, you don't keep putting the fuel into it. But what happens is we can keep eating. Our bodies just allow us to. They don't stop us eating. And all it does is we can tell when a person's overeating because they're fat, and it might be seen as a derogatory term. Then people think it's greed, but it's, we want to taste that food. I want to taste the biscuits. I want to taste the cakes. Yeah. I love savory and I love sweet, but sometimes when you go without things for a while, you do have a craving for them. And what if you have one? You can't just have one. You can't have. I mean, I haven't smoked for over 40 years, but if I had one cigarette now, I'm sure I'd be back on it.
Yeah, it's one good thing to do is see the film how they make the products, like chicken necks and everything with like a cake or something is big, is greasy, I don't want to eat that when I look at it in the factory. It's not for me.
No.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is going into this processed food? It's gross, right?
Yeah.
The one thing we haven't touched on is, and we're talking about food in general, and the fats. And so I'm going to share this with you. This is a screen here showing different types of fats and oils. And fat is basically an amino acid with glycerol. And so again, we've got hydrogen and oxygen and some carbon, and these are all the molecular structures here. But you've got your standard vegetable oil, which is liquid. Then obviously you've got your olive oil and your avocado oil. And people will cook with all of these things. And vegetable oil, I must say most of the world is cooking with that now. But that's not natural. That put a big cross through that. That was never meant to be eaten. There's nothing good or healthy about it. It was made for machines. And then when Ansel Keys came up with his low-fat diet and all that fad, and the cholesterol came into the arena, and everybody was worried about the cholesterol levels, and then they started eating margarine. And, things have gone bad since those days that were meant to put us back on track. So avoid vegetable oils. Do not cook with olive oil. Do not cook with avocado oil because it's got a low smoke point. And if it smokes, that means it's producing the oxidants, which are then called free radicals, and they affect your body. So you want to go for pure butter. I make my own ghee using butter, coconut oil, lard, And again, I don't think palm oil is a good one to use either. But those
It is
are
very
different fats.
expensive. It's very expensive. I think the red palm oil is okay, but it's expensive and you don't find it very many places. I wouldn't even think about it.
I mean, the cheapest one, if you want to fry eggs or bacon, anything like that, use lard. For stir fries, I use ghee or I use coconut oil. Yeah, you pay a little bit more than you would for your standard vegetable oil, but these cause inflammation. These oils here just cause inflammation if you cook with them, and they're not good. And carbohydrates, again, is a cause of aches and pains in people's bodies. You know, I had aches and pains in my body when I lost weight and I cut the carbs, the aches and the pains went. I don't know if anybody else can verify that, you know.
Agree. Yeah. The oils that are bad for you cause inflammation in your system. And I know that if I have maybe accidentally had something the next morning, I will be able to tell it. My fingers will, you know, be painful when I wake up.
Yeah, it's so important that we, this is a message that people need to get out. And the reason that we're here today is to share information based on our evidence and experience. And the one thing that we do on the Localofa group page is to post our meals. Now, Andrea, absolutely fabulous meals you come up with, Andrea. I've posted hundreds of meals on over the years. A lot of my meals are very samey stir fries. So share the meals that you're cooking with us, and we'll comment on them. And if we think you're slipping up, we'll ask you a question whether your meal is whether you're on weight maintenance or whether you're trying to lose weight. And we will give you advice and help to help you, not to admonish you, not to tell you off. You know, we're not here to tell anybody off. But there's no point if you're trying to lose weight and then you're putting cream and in your coffee and, you know, eating wedges of cheese and lots of fat, and then you'll be wondering why you're not losing weight. Well, we can tell you the reason why. Eating fat on a low-carb diet can stall your weight loss, and that's why the standard ketogenic diet, which you see out there, so many people talk about keto. It's not it never was a diet. It was designed in the 1920s to help children with epilepsy and to get them into ketosis rather than to help them to lose weight. So is there anything anybody else wants to ask before we close this? Have we missed anything out? We've missed anything that's of interest of anybody?
I'm sure we could talk about a million different things.
Yeah.
We've covered quite a bit. I mean, we're always available for questions on the Facebook page. If you have a question about any aspect of Localofa, you know, whether it's fasting or what foods to choose or why can't I eat this? What about that? We're there. We'll answer your questions.
Yeah, that's what we're there for. I think Julie's cat wants to say something.
Yeah, she likes to talk.
Yeah.
She also likes to sit on the laptop, which I'm keeping her from doing.
Okay, so I'll just endorse what Andrew just said. If you want to ask questions, there's a way of doing it. You can join us also on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. UK time. The reason that we changed the 4 p.m. time was because mainly it was just us group on here, but we wanted to use our time more productively and to bring you nuggets of information. So if you feel that you want to come on, join us and share about your journey and share about your experience that will help other people, then come and join us. The meeting number is 451-889-3485. And you can join us at 4 p.m. UK time and on a Monday afternoon. So we're not trying to exclude people, but we are now changing the format of the meeting so that we try and make it an advisory panel. And we're here today as experts to help you. Okay. So unless anybody else has got anything to add, I'll say thank you very much indeed for standing by and watching. Anybody want to add anything, guys?
No.
Okay, then we'll see you next week. Thanks again for stopping by and watching in. Bye now. Say bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
If you're watching this video on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and ding the bell so you don't miss out on our future videos.